Is it gonna do the thing? Oh, it says meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
There we go. What's up, friends? I think we're good. We figured out tech. Tech is no longer.
Oh yes, here we are. Fantastic. Okay, cool. All right, guys. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm terrible with tech. Oh, damn it! Hold on.
Are we good? Are we good, friends? Are you here? Are you watching?
I just had like the weirdest thing happen because I had the video open in Facebook, and then like our first 15 seconds of conversation was overlapping over these. Okay, so everybody, this is Justin. Okay, we're late. It's all my fault. I was recording some Attorney X interviews and I forgot to record a couple of them, hit the record button, and now I'm flustered and I've messed up the tech here. But thankfully, Justin is going to save our lives and teach us everything that we need to know about reviews. But in all seriousness, this is Justin. He's a friend of mine. You guys have heard me talk about the network, sort of like the mastermind group that I'm a part of. He is a part of that, and he has many different talents. One of the things that he is sort of geeky about, in the same way that I'm geeky, well, he's geeky about creating content in a different way, but he's also geeky about sort of social proof, really more so than just reviews, but the idea of actually creating and getting stories and information from clients and people that actually helps your business. And he does it in a way that is sort of not traditional. And so I thought it'd be cool to have him come on here and have us just kind of like talk really a little bit about this. And he's got some things that he can just teach. So we're going to just do that. And then I know he's also got sort of like a more in-depth class. I don't know what you call it. It's like a webinar basically, but going on tomorrow, I think, and I'm going to give him a chance to let you guys know about that too. And I'm rambling. So Justin, tell us a little bit about you. I've done a terrible job all the way around. We're 19 minutes late.
Hey, listen, this is what happens in lives and podcasts. Everyone watching right now understands exactly what you're going through. There isn't anyone watching right now who has not been on the end of pressing or forgetting to press record or.
This is par for the course for me anyway. They're kind of used to me showing up a little bit late and a little bit haphazard, so it's not the end of the world.
Hey,
so
Dan,
here we are.
So
yes,
here's my question before I give you an introduction. So I got some people watching. Like, drop in the comments like what you actually do. This is obviously an attorney group, but I would imagine there's a bunch of people here that do different types of law, right? So let's hear, like, if you're watching the replay or live, let us know. So my name is Justin, as Chris shared. So my background is in stories. So I've spent over a decade in the film production world, doing everything from feature-length documentaries to, huge big budget commercials to small mom and pop type films for local businesses, service businesses, brick and mortar. And so I have always been fascinated by using Dale, criminal defense. Cool. I've always been fascinated about the idea of stories as a mechanism to drive action. There's nothing that motivates humans more than story. And so from a business perspective, we were being hired by these massive companies, small companies, everyone in between, to capture stories that would ultimately just drive sales, right? And what we realized very quickly is human stories, not fancy, the bigger the budget didn't necessarily correlate to the better story. Therefore, it didn't correlate to more money at the end of the project. And so what we realized is, like, everyday stories of human people are very inspiring. And so that kind of led us down this path of, like, why? And what we realized in doing that path is going down that path of studying story, of studying, psychology, why people buy, all those things, is that ultimately we are motivated by other people. We are a herd species. We default to the social norm to stay safe. In our primitive time, that was basically like to not get eaten by lions. Well, we no longer are worried about getting eaten by lions unless you're like in a safari in this day and age. But what we are worried about is things like losing money, being taken advantage of, losing status, looking silly, making the wrong decision, all these things that ultimately prevent us from seeking help and ultimately making a change in our lives. So a lot of people need what you guys do, but they either are scared or unsure. And so what we can talk about today specifically is the concept of reviews as kind of like step one of the process to getting people to take action. And as local businesses, you guys have an unfair advantage because a lot of people are on the internet and they're, not necessarily, people aren't necessarily searching for that solution. But in your case, you have a local business. There's a lot of people out there that are literally searching for exactly what you have to offer. And then what we help with is then take that herd mentality and show the people that are searching that ultimately you are the safe one to go with. And safe doesn't mean like, best. It doesn't mean cheapest. It doesn't mean more expensive. It doesn't mean worse. It just means like there's safety in numbers. So you're giving that, we call it the gift of going second, but you're giving that gift to all those people that are searching for you, like criminal defense, Iowa, right? Estate planning, Seattle, right? Like those are what people are searching. So how do we give them that gift? And so step one is reviews. And you have an unfair advantage now because of Google My Business and just Google in general. Like that didn't exist years ago. And now you have this unfair advantage. And then step two are stories. And so what we have happening tomorrow is step two, which is basically we have a workshop on how to capture and leverage client testimonials. Because once they come into your sales process, stories are what's going to actually encourage them to take the next step and ultimately become your client. But step one, like we're going to talk about today, which is all about reviews, because people are searching for you. And how do we stand out above the competition? Well, we have reviews. Now, the secret though, is going back to this whole like safety first. If you're watching live, we've got some watching live. The way that we kind of look at this notion of safety is there's the first bucket, which is people are scanning for BS. And a lot of reviews don't even check the, get past the BS filter, which is just like, Chris is great, right? That gives me almost no safety at all. It gives me almost nothing other than a platitude. And so a lot of reviews that exist online, which may feel great to us as a service provider, actually do very little to drive the prospects to take the next step. And so we want to check that box, which is like, the BS filter. That's step one. And then step two is the box, what we call as the me filter. So we want our reviews to not only be, this is a legitimate business, but this is a legitimate business who helps people like, and so you're basically using reviews as a front end filtration, because at the end of the day, if you've been a service provider for any length of time, there's nothing more frustrating than getting on a phone call with someone who clearly is calling the wrong attorney, or is calling someone that can't help them, or is calling and it's just a time suck. And so we do that through two ways. One, the BS filter, and two, the me filter. And so I'm going to focus a little bit more on the me filter today, because that's kind of where the secret sauce is to all of this. So if you're watching the replay, let us know. If you're watching live, also, ask questions. The biggest thing with reviews is a lot of service providers think it is not something they control. Would you agree, Chris?
100%.
So we open up a business. We recognize that reviews are how people buy in 2020 and beyond. I mean, it's been like that for years. And we just think, oh, well, it's not necessarily something we control. It's something that our clients control. And we can ask and we can encourage, but at the end of the day, we're kind of at the mercy of our clients. And what that means is, going back to the herd species, the people who leave reviews typically aren't the people who've had great experiences. The people who leave reviews are the people who've had mediocre experiences, because they're trying to protect the tribe and the group that's going to come next. In the same way that we don't want to go first, we don't want other people to go through the pain, the frustration, the annoyance, the lack of support, whatever it is. And so what we end up with is really great service providers who help hundreds or thousands of clients, and they have crickets for reviews, or the reviews they have are the vocal minority, not the majority of people who you've served and over-delivered. And that comes down to this concept of like, well, we don't really have control over this. I mean, I asked once, I put it in my email at the end of my client journey, and no one leaves me a review. And so the reason that is, is, I mean, it's ultimately quite simple. Typically, most people ask for reviews in a very self-serving manner, which is simply, I need this review for my business because it's going to help me sell more. It's going to help me attract more clients. It's going to help me rank higher on Google, right? In the eyes of your client, when you're making that ask, even if they've had a great experience, even if they are thrilled, you've saved them money, you've saved them time, whatever it is that you've helped them do, at the end of the day, it's still about you. And so what we want to do is kind of flip that switch, because if we make it about safety in numbers and herd mentality, not only will the people who've had a negative experience leave a review, but the people who've had a positive experience will too, because then they are influencing the next batch of people to know that, hey, wait a minute, this is a safe decision. If you go with Chris, he's going to look after your family. Like, your family's estate is going to be looked after if you go with Chris. And so we have a kind of a two-prong approach to the ask. And this is how you take control. Number one is you just get them to commit with a very easy micro commitment, which is just like a yes or no. This ideally should happen face-to-face, which is simply in the meeting, somewhere not near the end of the project, but somewhere in the middle where they've had a win of some sort. It's simply saying, hey, you've had whatever their win was. This would be really inspiring to people who, like you, just a couple weeks ago, right, are stuck. They need help. They're confused. They don't know where to go. Whatever relates to what you help people do. It would be incredible if you could share your story to inspire them to take the next step, or to inspire them to seek help, or to inspire them to find the support that they need. Is that something?
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think about what everybody's thinking right now as they're watching this. One of the, and we talked about this, sort of when I went through this process, a few months ago, and one of the it's not a problem. One of the challenges, for many people that are doing legal services, is that the clients are not necessarily going through a process that they want to talk about.
Yeah.
Right. So like, although for estate planning, people often just don't, that's not that big of a deal. But imagine, we have criminal defense, we have divorce, right? We have business litigation. We just have things where people just don't necessarily want, it's not like they went and got a great oil change, or even like, like, for example, we built a house. I see less challenges there, right? Because people want to talk about those experiences. Is there a way to like soften people up, or to you know where I'm coming from? Like,
so yes, but just you saying the house example, right? So we've helped architects, interior designers, contractors. I mean, we heard it too, which is like, oh man, my clients are private. They don't want people knowing that they've spent $1 million on their house. Or, oh man, our clients are private. They don't want people knowing where they live. Or in the case of like our mutual connection, right? Tasha in the fertility industry, like she struggles because like people don't want to talk about being or having fertility issues. Because in a lot of cases, we think it's a women related issue, but like 40% of pregnancy related issues are male. And so no one talks about this stuff, yet somehow it works in all those industries.
So are we just making shit up? Is that what you're trying to say?
You are, because at the end of the day, if you are helping people, right? Yeah. And it's not about you, it's about them. People want to inspire the next wave of people to know that there's an alternative, that there's a way out. And so it is, pardon?
I'm just gonna take it one level deeper, because I think you're right. Part of because here's the thing, as you know, I want this to be something that people will actually implement. And so I think it's important to try to, because if we don't get past this, no one will ever do anything else. Yeah. Right. And I think it's sort of, in many ways, this goes into that overall fear of like being rejected. Right. Because by doing this, you are going to have to make an ask, and there is the chance that someone could say no, or could Discord could react negatively, or maybe they're not having a good experience so far as you thought or something. And so I think it's I could see this being a roadblock for a lot of people to even taking the next step. I think that's one of the reasons, by the way, that review requests often go out in an email, right? Because you don't have to like, it's like a silent rejection, right? Because they just, whether or not the what you're asking for resonates or not, if they don't do it, you don't really ever know, because they don't. That makes sense. They're not like writing you back like, oh, I am not writing you a review, so not to spend too much time on it, but I just think it's a really important point to hit, because I think it's a roadblock for myself included, right? To be quite honest, it's like, it's a hard, and it manifests itself in these rationalizations that people don't want to leave reviews. But
so I would just say that the thing that we have to get over,
help us get over this.
Yeah, let's get over it. We're not asking for a review. That's what we're getting. We're not asking for it. We're asking to share their story. And I think the shift of that is, it's no longer a thing based on feedback. It's a thing based on experience. And so as long as you are actually providing a great experience, you don't need to be fearful of that. And so the reality is, like, whatever you help people with when it comes to law, it's, they were somewhere, you help them get to somewhere where they wanted to be. That is a story. And there are people who are still here. And the people who are over here are the only ones who have the story that can get them, the other people, over here too. And so if we don't acknowledge that, then there are hundreds, possibly thousands of your clients who are walking around with the answers to the problems that thousands, if not tens of thousands of people have. And no matter how much marketing you do, no matter how much local parties, anything like local ads, whatever it is you do, it's still promise-based marketing, which is simply like, please believe me, I promise to help you with your whatever. The difference between using stories is it's no longer promise-based marketing. It's story and proof-based marketing. And so if you are helping people, and hopefully you are, right? Like, hopefully you're actually helping people get results, and it's meaningful, asking them to share a story, their story, isn't an ask about you, right? It's not saying like, hey, I need this story so that I can grow my business. That will happen. But what matters most is simply someone sharing their story of what it was like going through that journey.
Right.
And so when that happens, people don't say no. I mean, that's like, quite honestly, like, they don't. Because if you've helped them make that transformation, you're not asking anything that is for any selfish reason. It literally taps into the DNA of the herd mentality, which is like, hey, you have an inspiring story. You could inspire others. Is that something you'd be interested in? And the idea is, you just want a really quick micro commitment, which is like, yeah. And then you can follow up with more of the details. But the reason we do it in person, and why we recommend it in person, is because of sincerity comes across. If it's an online form, right, or an online ask, like we're a partner of Trustpilot, right? So people come to us and we get a special rate for Trustpilot, and that's all automated. And when you're at a certain scale, like, sure, like, come to us and we'll help you get a discount at Trustpilot. But for a lot of people, you're not quite there yet, or you don't have the system built out yet. This personal touch is why people say yes, because it's Chris. Like, I'm talking to Chris. I'm not talking to Chris's email, which could have been sent from his assistant or VA or office admin. And right. So it's like a different experience if that kind of provides enough detail. The only thing I will say, though, is when it comes to sensitive industries, yes, Google is going to have some information, but people can obviously change that. It doesn't necessarily have to be, first name, last name, and picture. What we recommend on the testimonial front, not so much on the review front, though, is you can change information so that if it's a male, the story can come from a woman, female. If it's a female, the story can come from a male. If it's someone's name, you can change their name. The idea is, if you're dealing with topics that like people cannot be associated with, which we totally get, there are creative ways to still get a story out there without actually revealing who it was. So it's just something to be mindful of.
So real quick, tell me, you're talking about testimonial versus review. Can you sort of define those two things? Are testimonials things that you craft and send out, versus reviews are things that the clients themselves sort of craft and send out to the world?
So I would look at it as the way that people perceive them. So a review seems more objective and a testimonial seems more subjective, which is like most people use testimonial, like most service providers get their own testimonials, but they don't necessarily get their own reviews. What we're suggesting is you can actually get your own reviews and get your own testimonials. So you can do both. You just have to be in control of the system. And how I would look at a review and a testimonial is they have different outcomes and different objectives. So a review should just be getting people to take that next step, which if it's Google My Business, maybe it's pick up the phone call or pick up the phone. If it's Google My Business, maybe it's go to your website to see, do you help people like me? If it's Yelp, same type of thing. So a review isn't necessarily designed to get someone to book you. It's just to get someone to take that next step, whatever that logical step is. A testimonial, like literally should get people to book you, because at that point you're using stories intentionally throughout your sales journey. So when they head into your office and you've got, you know, we have one of our clients in the UK who has like a long hallway to her. She's a physiotherapist, and so you come into her office and there's like a wall, and all it is stories of her clients climbing mountains, swimming, fishing, doing all the things that they could do now because of her help with physio and physical therapy. And so that's a testimonial. That's more of like, hey, this is the thing that you could do if you actually keep, you know, making forward progress.
Got it.
And it's something you have a lot more control over. Again, a lot of people think like, oh, I just have to ask my clients for testimonials and I'm just at the beck end of whatever they send. And the reality is that's not true. Like the reason most people have very surface level reviews and very surface level testimonials that actually do very little is you're putting too much work on your clients. You're making it too much work for them to do it, too much thought, too much time, whatever. And then therefore what you get is like minimum viable product, which is just like, Chris was great. Wouldn't ever think of using another estate planner again.
Right.
Which is like, that doesn't mean anything. It's just empty words. And so, but the catch to all of this though is like more doesn't always equal better. So if you look at like how Google ranks, you know, they do take into account things like number of reviews. They do take into account your reply to reviews. So if you're not replying to your Google reviews, you are literally just sacrificing Google rank for nothing. Go today, reply to every single Google review you have, because that will help you rank higher. So simple things. But we want to be mindful of more reviews doesn't necessarily equal better or more trust. We want more reviews from people that you want more of, because essentially you're going to get what you show. So if you go down this path of having more detailed reviews that talk more about the person and the experience and journey, then you're going to get more people like that person who want that result, who are willing to go on that experience, and ultimately who hopefully you want to help. And so when you're thinking about who to ask reviews from, look at your top 10 clients that you would love to duplicate 100 times over. Those are the top 10 ones you should get first. So don't focus on like your mass, just focus on like the 10 clients that you want to duplicate 100 times over and get reviews from them first. And the thing, going back to you, Chris, as far as the like, oh, no one's going to leave reviews if they don't want to be known. The gift of going second also applies to the fact that there are existing reviews there. So the very first person to leave a review is facing the biggest uphill battle. But if you have 10 reviews there that are literally showing them like these are the types of reviews, guess what? And you're number 11, it's a lot easier to leave a review. So if you cherry pick that first 10 from like, let's say they're your really close clients you've had for years, maybe you've worked with their family, their estate law for their parents, then their kids, like you've worked with the entire like family and it's an easier ask, like let them set the stage, let them go first, and then let all the other clients come second. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
There you go. We're done, guys. That was it.
See ya.
Here's like a little challenge. If you're curious, like what should be, like what, going back to the content of a review, one like exercise we have people go through is simply like write out your perfect 5-star review from one of your past clients. So imagine you're one of your past clients. Like here's a great exercise, like literally write out what would be a perfect review for you. It does a couple things. The main thing is it shows you how laborious this process can be, which is like, what do I write, right? What do I edit out? Is this relevant? Is this not relevant? Is this too long? Is this too short? And so it's a very good exercise to put yourself in the place of your client when you're just saying, hey, can you leave me a review? Because for a lot of clients, even if they want to, it's overwhelming. And if it's overwhelming, they say yes and then they don't do it, or they don't even say yes and they don't do it. And so if you do this exercise, you will actually feel exactly what it's like. And then second of all, you will start to be aware of like, what guiding prompts or questions can I give my clients so that they can answer the review request in a way that's actually going to be most beneficial to other people. Not how can I, game the system so that I get reviews that only talk about the things I want to talk about, but how can I guide them to talk about things that would be helpful to the people that are coming next. And so like one of the simple prompts that we have, I'm just clicking around because I want to read it exactly, is, in our ask, so once someone is given the micro yes, then we actually have like a more formal kind of email that goes out. And one of the things in there is we don't tell them exactly what to say, but we say, hey, don't hesitate to share as much detail as you can, including, and then we have 3 little prompts. One of them is who you are. So a lot of people leave reviews and they'll leave it about Chris, but they won't talk about themselves. And so we want to flip that. We want them to talk about who they are, and we don't need to know who Chris is at this point, because that's what the review platform, there's the bios, there's links, whatever, it's fine. We just need to know who are the people that Chris helps so that I can see myself in those reviews. And then the next one is what caused you to seek out our service? And obviously you change out our service based on like what you do. And the reason is there's a bunch of people out there who are reading reviews, making decisions if you help people like them. And if the person that left a review says why they hired, like why they were looking for someone like Chris, then I'm more apt to connect with that person if I'm looking for that exact same thing. And so, Chris, like how many things do you help people do?
I basically help people do 2 things.
Well, within that, what do you help people do? Family security, planning for the long term.
Yeah, like what do I actually help them do? Not what the service do I provide. Yeah.
Tons.
Family protection, generational wealth, legacy, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Tons. And so people may not even be sure like what it is they're looking for, or they don't know if you help people like them. So they may say, estate planner and probate, but they don't know that you actually help people with like legacy planning or financial planning for the future for retirement, like whatever it is that you like, all the nuance that you do. And so if you have that, like what caused people to seek out your service, and you're actually speaking to the thing that like people are actually looking for, not just like the generic, this is my law.
Right. We make wills.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then the big thing is like, what has the result been on your life? Because again, people buy the thing, right? The will, but they do it for a specific reason. And so they get a piece of paper. Like I had what did we have? I mean, we had like a whole, like in the States, like a living trust. I mean, I swear to God, it was like this thick, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, I mean, that's what we got. Like, here's your stack of papers in case you die. Like, this is what happens to your kids. This is what happens to your wealth. This is what happens to your house. Like, it's literally this thick. But that wasn't like the result it had on our life. The result was like, if I do pass unexpectedly, my children are taken care of.
Right.
And for us, like our parents lived in a different country. So we had to deal with like, okay, so now we have someone in the US dealing with our money, but our kids have to get to Canada. And so like, what's going to happen? And so like, what we had was peace of mind. Like knowing that if something happened to me, I knew that my children were safe. I knew that my money was going to go to whoever it needed to go to. I knew that my wife wasn't going to be left with this massive, funeral bill because we had insurance and all these things that power of attorney, all these things. And so that's the result it actually had on me. And so you can see like these types of reviews, like who you are, what caused you to seek out the service, and what the result has been. Like all of a sudden they're like, you're in a different field. When people find your reviews, they see themselves, they know you help people like them, and they want the thing that you actually help people do. We're digging in a lot. Hopefully, if you're finding value in here, no anonymous creeping. Like definitely.
By the way, yeah. If by the way, and if you have questions, if you are skeptical, if you just want more clarity, leave a question. And also, this is a good opportunity to plug the other thing that you're doing, right? You're going deeper on this. What is it? Tell everybody what you're doing next tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow, right?
Yeah, so we have a live 2-hour workshop. It's online. It's via Zoom like this. And for 2 hours, we're going to walk through our entire process of how do we capture and leverage client testimonials to make selling virtually effortless. And then at the end of it, you have a 75-page SOP, essentially like a user manual that you can hand to your admin assistant, your VA, your partner on your team, someone who does client relating stuff to just implement. And so we also have a 5-star workshop that walks through our exact process. And that's something you can add to the cart. It's like $297, so it's like a no-brainer. That walks through how we actually help people get reviews. So a lot of this, we've talked about, but like the actual like nuts and bolts. What do you say? When do you say it? How do you ask? And then what do you do with these reviews? Because at the end of the day, getting them is one thing, but actually like actively using them and leveraging them is an entirely different thing that, is not being utilized by service providers. And so if you get these great reviews that talk about those 3 things we talked about, then all of a sudden you have a marketing asset that isn't about you. It's about the people you help and them sharing their stories. And that's incredibly powerful. Right. The one thing I will say is chances are, if you've been a service provider for any length of time, like you probably have a couple of reviews that aren't all rosy. Maybe because the client was crazy, maybe because you were overwhelmed and overworked and it was busy tax season we've seen, or it's just like crazy, just things happen, right? And so as far as like responding to reviews, as I said, it is the lowest hanging fruit you can do to build trust is literally respond to every single review. For the positive reviews, that is an opportunity for you to show how much you care about your clients, how much you help them, what you actually do in case they didn't fill that in. Provide any context or story that may be missing from their review that you want to really highlight. But at the very least, it is an opportunity for people that are thinking about hiring you to see like, hey, wait a minute, you value when your client goes out of their way to leave your review, which means you're personable. If it's not a great review, we have like a couple of like just general tips, which is simply if they're fake, because unfortunately, in a lot of cases, people can leave fake reviews. Your competitors can leave a negative review for you. Obviously, some platforms will help you remove them. Some won't. At the very least, the very first thing you should do if a fake review comes in is respond to it and call it out the way it is, which is simply like, hey, Tim, we don't actually have a record of you. We've never worked with you before, but, we can assure you that's not how we would blah, blah, blah. If you do want to give us a chance, blah, blah, blah. Right. And so like acknowledge that it is fake because again, people will believe you. If you don't acknowledge it, then people will assume it's real. So like that's like the lowest hanging fruit. Couple of like really easy wins. Avoid over educating the client in a review. So if they've said something that's clearly not correct, our first inclination is like, let me just educate you about this because that's why your experience was poor. Don't do that. Right. Just assume that the person reading into it is going to think that you maybe are a little overbearing and that you love to educate your clients in that type of way. So acknowledge it, say what you need to say, but just try and avoid, over educating. And then the other thing is no insulting or placing blame. This is really easy for people to do because we get offended. Like, wait a minute, this was your fault.
That's right.
Again, like
don't get defensive.
Yeah, don't get defensive. And so just be a human. Like, how would you normally respond to that person in real life? Like, show compassion, try and make amends. Like, just don't be. Melissa said, I had no idea I should be responding to reviews. Simple yet easily overlooked. 100%. And Google literally will increase its ranking to you if you just respond to reviews because it knows that you are a service provider who's going above and beyond. Like there's all these little things behind the Google algorithm, and that's one of them, which is like such an easy low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, it also makes people feel good too, right?
100%.
To validate what they've written about you, to just say, hey, thank you.
Yeah. How many people in like, in your life that, go out of their way to help you? It's like, that's basically what a review is. So like, let's just like give them kudos and call them out for doing that. I realize we're probably running a little bit over time here, but let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, I mean, those are the things I wanted to talk about.
I got one more question for you.
You got it. Lay it on me.
Because you are also a compliance guy, and we got a bunch of attorneys in here. What are your feelings about saying like, hey, if you leave me a review, I'll give you a Starbucks card or like some things like that. I know. I already know the answer. Talk about that briefly though, and just so because I tend to fall on the more laissez-faire side of like doing all this rule following, things like that. But it is important to at least understand the rules that you may be skirting or walking in the gray areas. So talk about that real quick, just so that people know sort of straight away what the deal is.
Yeah. So some review platforms, you can't even ask for reviews. So like technically, again, Yelp, you can't solicit reviews. That's actually against their terms of service. So if you're asking someone to leave you a review on Yelp, literally you are jeopardizing your Yelp ranking, if that matters to you in 2019. I'm not sure. In the case of asking for a review or a testimonial in compensation for something, that is technically a paid endorsement. So if you leave me a review and I'm going to give you a Starbucks card, you're paying for that review. And so I see it all the time. Like there's a local falafel place we go to, and it's like, leave a review and you get a free orange smoothie. And you go to their review page and there's clearly a lot of reviews. But those reviews are from people who are seeking free smoothies, and they're just like empty reviews. They're not actual like patrons that cared about falafels and wanted the most authentic falafel and are willing to sit down and wait because the chef is making it, and all the things that a restaurant would actually want from a great customer, not someone who's just seeking freebies. And so at the end of the day, I love rewarding our clients. Like I love buying them gifts and all that kind of stuff, but that not at the like benefit of a review. So if you want to buy them a gift when they become your client, cool. And maybe that will influence them to leave a review if they've had a great experience. After they're your client, if you want to give them a gift, Christmas or holidays or kid's birthday, like of course, like that's how you fulfill and find fulfillment, like do it. But if it's tied to that review or tied to that testimonial, like that's a paid endorsement. And then as such, in Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig, like, this is a paid endorsement, like that person didn't get paid money in a lot of cases. They just got free product. They got free mentorship with Jenny Craig, or they got free coaching, or they got a free trip to California where they're going to film that testimonial. They didn't actually like give them money, but that's a paid endorsement because they got something for free in exchange for them speaking highly about this company.
Yeah. Perfect.
Also, like if someone finds you online, then they come to your office and they see that those reviews were gamified, then what else are you willing to gamify to get their business? Right. And so like, again, this is about you as a business owner and like integrity. But like for us, like we want people to come to us because we're the best person to help them. And that shows in our actual social proof. Like we are the best at what we do, not because we're using stories that we've like, gamified out of our clients. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And I think it's something that we don't often think about because we're so focused on trying to get people to leave us reviews, So, yeah, cool.
So if anybody has any questions, you can drop it in the replay. If you head to socialproofclub.com, that's where you can buy a workshop ticket for tomorrow. It's a no-brainer price. I think it's like $397. So it's literally one client will pay for itself many times over. So it's 2 hours. We have an implementation kit that you'll get at the end of it. And then you'll have 30 days of support afterwards. So if you have questions like this, or if you, like this sounds great, how would this apply to my, law office because I'm dealing with extra legalities. Like we've pretty much helped businesses.
I can tell you, I've gone through the whole process, and it's pretty amazing. And what's nice about it is that you don't have to do a lot of thinking. The sort of the system and what to do is already there. You just have to sort of do it. So, I wanted to bring Justin on because he's a great resource, and I wanted to share him with you. So, he really knows what he's doing. And so check it out if you're interested for sure. It's very helpful. And it's also kind of, one of those things where I'm always looking for an opportunity to do something different than what everyone else does. And this is sort of another one of those easy ways to stand out from everybody else, because your reviews will be different. They will be better in a way, right? They will be unique. And, in a sea of attorneys that all have the same types of reviews, having these different sort of reviews that resonate with people, I think does make a difference. So, yeah, hope you guys got, and if you don't go, it's fine. Hope you guys come out of this too. And if you do have questions, leave them here. Justin is in the group. Obviously, I'm in the group. So, it's something that we always want to keep working on and thinking about. So,
yeah, that's a good point. I'll end with that. Just note that like reviews are not evergreen. So it should be not something like it's not something that you stop doing. Like on Google, it shows the date. We want to be showing that we have consistent results for our clients. So like if you're doing it, like regardless of whether or not you sign up for the workshop, like just keep doing it, because this is the thing that's going to pay in dividends over and over again.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. See ya.